Hi, this is Trevor, and welcome back to our weekly tarot card challenge. Today is Saturday, October the 4th. Where's the time going? We've set aside the cards that we've covered already, and I'm noticing that we've gone through already about a third of the deck. I've set aside those videos here on this YouTube channel, and you can also find them as well as information about how I work and how to book an appointment with me, whether that's in person or over Skype, on my website at trevorsense.com. I'm shuffling the cards, and there we go. Well, it's about time we had a court card. We've been looking at the minor arcana, the major arcana, and part of the minor arcana are the court cards, very similar to what we see in playing cards, which is actually the system that tarot evolved from, where you have the the Jack, Queen, and King. And in tarot, we have Page, Knight, Queen, King. And we've covered a few already, and this is the King of Cups. Now, court cards are usually used to describe people. And in the little book that comes with the tarot cards, we see pages oftentimes as children, knights as young men, queens as mature women, and kings as mature men. Well, that leaves a few things out. I've found that sometimes pages don't just describe children, but sometimes people who are seeking experience, people who maybe have some lesser experience that we have to guide and nurture or protect. Knights as being that sense of people who are questing. And queens and kings oftentimes will be describing a kind of more feminine or masculine energy. But you really have to be looking at how those cards are coming up in relation to the person, because after all, tarot is a symbolic language, and it is an interpretive language. So it's not always the case that it's going to be a knight describing a young man. And sometimes it's not always the case that a king would necessarily be just, say, talking about a man in a position of maturity or authority. It can sometimes be an indication on another level. I like to see the court cards actually just like gears on a stick shift. There's going to be times when we have to be childlike in our approach, times where there's a sense of really kind of working together in a group in some unity and looking at how there's cooperation and conflict. Times when we have to take perhaps a more nurturing role, a kind of sustaining energy, and there's times when we have to be very accountable. So it's going to have to do sometimes with not just the person, but sometimes the situation where that's called for. And kings, we think of a king and a queen as being kind of a ruling, presiding influence. So there can be sometimes a paternal or fatherly energy that's present in a king. And I know some people who have that sort of parental energy without necessarily having kids. So again, we're looking at how that comes up. But the King of Cups, when we generally are talking about a person, is going to be a fellow with a pretty open emotional nature. Sometimes that means this person could have a lousy poker face. There is a strong sense of humor and a sense of compassion that comes through. Sometimes this can be about somebody who is a kind of a guiding, nurturing influence in terms of wanting to kind of sustain things. And then there's the challenging aspects of the person. And that's not necessarily indicated by the card being reversed, but sometimes the other cards that come through around it. Sometimes the King of Cups is somebody who is trying so hard to be that kind of sustaining influence that there's sometimes some challenges with boundaries. And I find sometimes because the emotional nature is so open that sometimes this person's only recourse is to stand back or to withdraw. So sometimes I call the King of Cups kind of like Mr. Turtle. There's this sense of being very open with the world and sometimes needing to disengage. He can sometimes have some challenges with boundaries and setting priorities. So it's a sense of that very open, kind of emotional, watery nature. When we look at the details in the cards, there's something interesting. This funny little figure in the background, that's a dolphin. And dolphins are, by nature, very emotionally intuitive, very, very aware. There's areas of therapy where dolphins get very involved with people who are healing, kids that are kind of working through challenge. and you see how the dolphins interact. And from ancient times, it was considered unlucky if you were a fisherman to catch a dolphin in your net. You wanted to set him free because there's been stories from time immemorial about dolphins saving and rescuing people from sharks. Now that's interesting. We think of sharks as being pretty intimidating. I have friends who love the shark TV shows, but sharks are predators, and they're going after food. And dolphins have that intuitive awareness. They seem to kind of sense when somebody's in trouble. And a dolphin will actually ram into the shark. They will actually chase the shark away from somebody who's struggling in the water. I think it's also that sharks have a sense of humor. Or pardon me, dolphins have a sense of humor. And they have this ability to interact. And when we think about, social situations and groups, sometimes in business, there's the people that are the sharks. They're going for the kill, right? And then sometimes you'll get a dolphin present in that environment. A dolphin is somebody who doesn't take that conflict too seriously. They're able to go, come on, guys. And there's that sense of humor and that sense of openness. So I know of some fellows who do very, very well in areas of business where they have to deal with sharks, but they keep their emotional energy present, they keep their emotional energy, open, and they have a sense of humor. They're able to go, come on. And I think that they have the ability to be dolphins amidst the sharks. And generally, those guys happen to be people that I would describe as a king of cups. There's also the idea that we work with physical descriptions. Again, that's something you'll find in the little book that comes with the cards. And it seems to suggest that, people in the suit of swords would have hair a certain color. People in the suit of wands would have hair a certain color. I don't always go with that because I think that's as bad as telling like blonde jokes or, inferring that people with a certain hair color are going to be better at math. I think that we have to really be looking at the overall picture that comes through. But something interesting, this comes from my dear mother, that it just so happens that myself and some of the men in my family, I guess could be described as cups personalities. We have very emotionally expressive features. I do bear a little resemblance to Yosemite Sam. And my mother says it's because you have a mush face. And oftentimes, us cups guys, we grow the whiskers to try and look a little tough or to look a little edgy. In my case, it's just something that was an experiment one day that stuck. But it's that sense of a very expressive kind of feature, very kind of expressive nature. I know people of swords that are very, very good at having the focused sort of stone face when it comes to some areas of interaction, and particularly in business. So it's the expression, it's the energy that's getting expressed through the person that we're talking about, I think, really more in terms of the element. So that's just some random thoughts around the King of Cups cards. I hope everybody's going to have a great week. Take care, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye for now.